Welcome back to the Retro Sports Gamer channel, and tonight I'm going to be talking all about the hardcore tournament that we're having here in Chicago, June 9th at Demon Tap. And we're going to be talking about the tier list a little bit tonight, the tournament, some of the prizes. Also, I want to congratulate Joey Gatz for winning Tecmo Madison for the third time. So it looks like he's pretty much the undisputed best Tecmo Super Bowl player out there, and this tournament is going to give people an opportunity to win a different type of championship. One, if it were WWF, guys like Mankind, Cactus Jack, Chainsaw Charlie would go for. This is the hardcore tournament. So why I thought of the hardcore tournament is really because that's how I grew up playing the game. I didn't know any rules to the game until I started playing online probably like 10 years ago. So we've always had a family tournament, Christmas Eve, before I started playing online. Started a few years before that. And we never had any rules. Once I started playing online, I debated changing the rules, but I didn't want to be like an elitist to my family, so I just left them the same, and it's worked out perfectly fine. I would say out of the people that play in my family, there's probably like a good 4 to 6 of us that can play well. The rest of them aren't going too deep into the strategy. So yeah, I see you in the chat there. If you want to leave any questions, I'll answer them once I get through everything here. So that was one of the things that I thought about, is just that's the way I played the game. So I thought, bring this type of tournament to Chicago. The other thing is when I was going through some of the footage at the Equalizer tournament, I heard Flo, who's a Chicagoan, say that he doesn't think lurching is that bad. Lurching is the nose tackle dive that's outlawed in mostly all of the tournaments. So he said he thought he was in the minority. So that got me thinking, well, Flo's one of the best players in Chicago. If he would play in that tournament, I wonder if the other guys would. So I asked them about it, and pretty much all of them said, yeah, they would play in a tournament like that. So, if your local players that you play with aren't going to play in a tournament like this, then it's probably not a good idea. But the local guys said they would play. I think the only guy that was questioning a little bit was Tecmo Bo. He's like, what, you want to play with lurching? But I think he'll come around. He's expanding his horizons. He's the big time Blono 15 champion. So he'll be around to play in the tournament. So tonight, really just want to go over this tier list and talk about the fact that some teams had to be moved around. The other thing before I get too deep into it is my brother and Joseph Green Magic, who just won the NBA Jam TE tournament at Tecmo Madison on the Friday night, the one versus one. So congratulations to Joseph. They're going to both be at the Midwest Gaming Classic in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. They're going to set up a little Tecmo Super Bowl tournament there using the hardcore format. They're going to be streaming live all day. The tournament's at 2:30. So they're going to run either a single or double elimination tournament, depending on how many people sign up for it. So if you're in the Wisconsin area, which I know there's a lot of Tecmo Super Bowl players there, and you're going to the convention, they'll be there. So if you want some Tecmo action at the Midwest Gaming Classic, look for them. It's 2:30 on Saturday, because I think the event's 3 days long. And the winner of that tournament, there's no prize at the convention, but this channel will recognize you in some capacity after the convention's over. So just keep that in mind if you do play in that tournament. So let's get to this tier list. So just give me a second to share the screen. All right, so here we go. We got the tier list. So some teams are moved around here. The first that you see from our original tier list is the Eagles got bumped up from tier 2 to tier 1. So I'm going to talk about some of the decisions that were made. Mostly the moving of the teams. I did that, ran it by Mort, let him know what I was thinking, and he gave the sign off on it. So uh, the Eagles got moved up basically because they have Randall Cunningham. And if you're going to allow the nose tackle dive or any dive from the D lineman, then, with a 56 max speed quarterback, you can pick any play you want still. It's not going to matter. You're not going to lurch Randall Cunningham at all with any player, including Bob Nelson. Oh, what's up, Mike? How's it going? Friend Mike's in Costa Rica right now chatting. So yeah, no one's going to touch Randall. You also got the option to put Keith Jackson at running back, which is a 50 max speed. So that gives them another option in the running game if you want to go that route. Their secondary is still going to be rough. There's nothing you could do about that. But let me talk about some of the matchups in tier 1. So 49ers Houston is pretty much straight down the line when you're playing in this format because Houston has an array of different receivers you can go to. They're 4 deep. So putting Drew Hill, the fastest receiver, 63, which was actually, he was a running back in college. That gives them an unbelievable running game and still a superior passing game. Mike's saying he's drunk right now. Okay, cool, Mike. So yes, the defensive Houston on defense with Richard Johnson, Childress, they can hold their own. I would say 49ers still have a better defense than the Oilers, but the 49ers player is going to have a choice to make. Is he going to put Jerry Rice at running back for that 63 max speed, or is he going to put him at receiver? The 49ers are deep as well in the receiving core. They still got Taylor, Brent Jones, but they're not quite as deep as Houston. So I would say that's a straight down the line. Giants matching up against those two teams, they're not quite as good in this format, but you can make a case for them because their defense is one of the best in the game, if not the best, and their offense is so balanced. So if you're comfortable with the Giants, you can choose them versus one of those two teams. The Bills are kind of going to be your odd team out. If someone calls a tier 1 matchup, I don't see you choosing the Bills at all. The reason being is they don't really get any advantage playing hardcore, putting substitutions, anywhere. That's not going to help them, and their secondary is poor, so they're going to do bad versus all other 4 teams in tier 1. The Eagles, now, they're still going to be rough versus the 49ers and the Oilers. Giants and Bills are going to be a better matchup for them. But the one thing I would say about the Eagles, if you want to keep the ball away from your opponent, play a ball control game, and just hope you get a turnover or 2 defensively, a fumble most likely, because your secondary is not going to do too much intercepting those teams, then you can make a case for the Eagles. Also, you're going to open up your playbook for pretty much any play you want. So the Eagles are a good bet if you just want to use any play you want, use the fastest quarterback in the game, and see if you can make it happen. But I would say a tier 1 matchup most of the time in this tournament, you're going to see Niners-Oilers. So the other thing, too, to keep in mind, the way the tier list works, if someone did call tier 1 after winning the coin toss, each player can then choose anything on the tier list. You can always just go lower tiers. So you're not going to do that tier 1, but you can. I mean, it's more viable looking at like a tier 3 or maybe if you pick tier 4 using the Browns or something. So just keep that in mind. So that's why the Eagles got moved up. So let's take a look at tier 2. Tier 2 from the standardized format, really the Eagles just got moved out. Other teams, they're still pretty much the same. You know, with the Chiefs, you got the balance. The Raiders, you have all the speed on offense, really fast defense, just not a lot of INT. Now, the Dolphins do get a little bit of a bump here because you could put Super Duper at running back with that 50 max speed and still have Clayton and Jensen as receivers. So, as well as leave Edmonds in the game for a tight end. So you'll still be covered there. So the Dolphins are really a team that's going to get an advantage in this format. Chicago Bears, they're pretty much going to stay the same. The advantage that you get in the standard like Madison format or all the other tournaments is putting Neil Anderson at wide receiver. And of course, because you can make all substitutions, you could still do that. It's just there's not going to be any receiver, anyone to move around to make it even better for you. So the Bears, they still stay in that tier because of their interceptions on defense and defensive speed, but they don't really get too much of an advantage here. Nose tackle dive wise, William Perry's he's not too fast. He's got that hitting power. The Bengals, they pretty much stay exactly the same. There's really not too much you can move around to make them better. They're slow at receiver. You're still going to have James Brooks as a running back, and you'll have Fulcher running around in the backfield making picks, and you'll mix them up with Bussy a bit. So tier 3, what we got here, the one team that got moved in is the Falcons, and the team that got moved out was Dallas. The Falcons got moved in because of Andre Rison. The ability to put him at running back if you want to gives you a 63 max speed option. You could put Rozier and Sean Collins as receivers and still have 250 max speed receivers, so you still have a little bit of speed with the Falcons. And then, of course, Deion Sanders. He's an elite defender in this game. Rest of the defense is kind of weak, but you might use man on the line a little bit more in this format. So the Falcons got a bump up. The other two teams I want to talk about in tier 3 are the Lions and the Bucks. They both have 31 max speed quarterbacks, so it's going to be hard to nose tackle dive against those two quarterbacks. So you'll be able to open up the playbook quite a bit if you're using those two teams. Generally, versus most of the nose tackles in the game, a 19 max speed quarterback like the Bengals and the Cardinals will allow you to avoid a lot of lurches. So keep that in mind. Now, a guy like Bob Nelson, who has that 69 rush power, that odd attribute, he can still get to them sometimes. And we'll talk about the Packers getting bumped in a second. All the other mid-tier teams, you know, the Vikings, you can make a decision on Anthony Carter if you want to put him at running back, but then they're still pretty weak at receiver. San Diego's pretty much staying the same. The Redskins, you can move a couple receivers, specifically Ricky Sanders. And at one time, you could run Ricky Sanders as a running back, even in the bigger tournaments like Tecmo Madison, because he started there and they were a 4 wide receiver team. So at some point, that got outlawed. But in this tournament, anything goes. You're playing this game just like it came out of the box in 1991. I think that's why this will work perfectly at the Midwest Gaming Classic, because you're mostly going to have people there that are interested in gaming, retro gaming, maybe more casual Tecmo Super Bowl players. And you don't really have to teach them any rules. You just give them the controller, say, hey, you can edit your playbook, this is how we do the tier list, or you could just pick the teams and just have a good time. Let's see what kind of game you got. And that's kind of the philosophy of the tournament. The top level players that decide to play, they'll have their in-depth strategies. They'll change their playbooks to fit the format. But the newer players, or players that need to knock off some rust, because an old game like this, you can't really say they're newer players, but for players that need to knock off some rust, they could come in with any game they got and give it a go, because there's a lot of people that have been playing this game for years and years, and they have a certain way of playing, and they might not have played in a live tournament before. We're hoping to find some of those people here in Chicago. I mean, this is going to be the biggest tournament, or not the biggest tournament, the biggest city that a Tecmo Super Bowl tournament is going to be run in. So keep that in mind. If you do come to this tournament, I could point you in the direction of at least 10 different beercades in Chicago, good pizza places. So there is that. So yeah, tier 3. Let's take a look. The Rams, you could put Ellard or Flipper Anderson as a running back. You just won't have him as a receiver. You could get a little bump in their running game. So Rams still high-powered offense, but they don't get any defensive help. The Broncos, they don't really get to the big thing about the Broncos is Elway is at 25 max speed. So you'll be able to open the playbook a bit with the Broncos in tier 3. So the 3 teams you can definitely do that with in tier 3 are the Lions, Bucks, and Broncos. The other teams you might have to be a little bit more cautious. I would say, as a rule of thumb in this tournament with your playbook, try to put 2 shotgun plays in. If you put 2 shotgun plays in, it's impossible to just dive in there and get your quarterback down. Rogue Gamer says in the chat, beercade and pizza, I'm sold. So yeah, Demon Tap, they have retro gaming there whenever you want to play there, and pinball, but they don't have arcade games, but there's tons of places in Chicago to go do that at. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up tier 3. Tier 4 got bigger from the standardized version of this because the Packers got moved from tier 5 to tier 4. And the reason the Packers got moved is, that Bob Nelson, with that 69 rush power, I already touched on that. He will accelerate quickly to be the fastest lurcher in the game. And also, I should note, there's a couple teams that do have better nose tackles. Jerry Ball and the Lions is one. So you got to look out for him. He could get in there a little bit faster. There's a few other ones that I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, Packers, Lions, look out for their nose tackles for sure. Also with the Packers, you could put Sterling Sharp at running back if you wanted to, but then you're really going to have no receiver threat with them. So you may choose to do that, but you can manipulate it later if the conditions change. Maybe Sterling Sharp goes above a 50 max speed, goes into good or excellent, and then you can take advantage of that. So the Packers have a little bit more flexibility. The Cowboys got moved down to tier 4. They're pretty much still the same team, but they're going to rely heavily on Emmitt Smith in the running game. Troy Aikman's kind of hit or miss with the passing game there. So, and their defense is a little bit underrated. I would say they have a solid, good speed secondary. So Dallas is in tier 4 at the top there. So you might want to choose Dallas quite a bit. Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, they have that phenomenal defense and no speed on offense. So there's not much moving around you could do with any sub you want with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're still going to be super slow, and you're going to rely on that defense to shut down your opponent. So they pretty much stay in that tier 4. But you can always use the Steelers are one of those teams you might want to use versus a tier 3 team. I know just looking at some of the matchups that happened at Tecmo, Madison, Odell did face Mort, and Mort called a Pittsburgh Broncos matchup, and Odell went with the Broncos, and Mort won with the Steelers. He's just really good with that team. And with that defense, sometimes you can overwhelm your opponent, and they can't get enough going to win the game. So that's what can happen with the Steelers, of course. The Cardinals are one team you want to keep your eye on because they do have a 19 max speed quarterback with Rosenbach. So you and also the Packers too. I forgot to touch on that. The Magic Man, he has a 25 max speed, so you'll get away with more plays, normal plays, than you would usually. Well, you could run the normal plays is basically what I'm saying with the Packers and also the Cardinals. Not as fast. He's a 19 max speed. So basically, just to give a little tip on the playbooks, you don't want to run too many plays that go straight up the middle because they're just going to get nose tackle dived. So the one drawback of this format is it does limit what plays are going to be effective, but there's plays to combat anything. And the cool thing about this format is the nose tackle dive lurching is kind of like gambling. If you do it at the wrong time versus the wrong run play, your opponent's just going to get a huge chunk of yards, probably even score a touchdown if you're going up against a fast running back. And you probably will be because you can do any substitution. So there's a different elements to the strategy in this format. So let's take a look. The Jets pretty much stay there. They're the same old Jets. They got a few good defenders in good spots, and above average quarterback for tier 4, but they don't have too much speed on offense. So there's not much manipulating you could do with the Jets. The Saints fall in that same category. They got all the 50 max speed guys on defense, and then offensively they have a couple Hillards 50, and then a couple other running backs 44, and not much there for their wide receivers. So they're staying in that tier 4. Tier 5. Now, some people say the Browns shouldn't be in tier 5 with those other teams, and there's a good case to be made there. But they also exist there just so you can't get pigeonholed into a Seahawks Patriots matchup or a Patriots Colts matchup, because if you just leave 3 teams in that tier, people can abuse that if they win the coin toss and just pick tier 5. Kind of one of the reasons for the tier list is just to give the most flexibility possible with keeping it even. So tier 5, that's only going to give you 4 options of teams. If you call tier 4, then you could use any team in tier 4 and tier 5. I know there's some people that would use the Browns against tier 4 teams. So, and the reason you would do that, especially in the hardcore format, is QB Browns, Bernie Kosar, he has that 25 max speed. So again, you're not going to be worried about the nose tackle dive as much. You could open up the playbook to what you normally do. Just don't use those plays that run up the middle. The Seahawks, you could really maybe take advantage of Jacob Green, a couple dive plays in here or there on specific plays. He's the best defensive player for the Seahawks, but they don't give you much offensively. Same thing with the Browns. The Browns, they have no speed on offense. You're still going to have Webster Slaughter as a weapon because his receptions combated or in conjunction with QB Browns' pass control. So that's still going to be your best way to score with them. The Patriots, again, they don't have much speed on offense. Marv Cook, I think, is a 44 max speed. You could put him at running back for a little bit of a boost. you're just going to want to, with all these teams in this tier, you're going to want to keep an eye on the guys each quarter to see if their conditions go up, because they just don't have breakout offensive players. And I think that's the overall theme with the tier 5 teams, is that all the players on their offenses are slow. On the regular list for this, the Packers are in tier 5, but they get the bump up because they do have a little bit of speed with Sterling Sharp on offense. And then the Colts, they're the overall consensus is they're the worst team in the game. They really don't have anything on defense. And George Skinner in the chat says Pittsburgh is underrated and misunderstood. Yeah, I already talked about Pittsburgh a little bit. They are one of those teams where if an opponent, where someone calls a tier 3, you could go to Pittsburgh and use them in tier 4. But yeah, the Colts overall, they just kind of suck. You're not going to pick them too often. But you do have Albert Bentley with the 44 max speed. And you have to keep an eye on the guys' conditions on the bench. And Patriots, you can make a case using them because Ronnie Lippett's got that 63 INT. So that pretty much is the tier list. If you want to look at more in-depth stats, of course, it says it right on there. TecmoGeek.com, the kick range statistics are still on there from some of the testing that Brewdog has done. Gives you, the max kicking range. There's a little bit of flexibility to that either way because, the kicker's conditions do change as well. I have missed because the Chiefs, 73 yards, Nick Lowry, he has the best leg in the game. I have been in that range and missed before, so just keep an eye on that. It's not exact in every situation. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the tier list for the hardcore format. So if you guys have any questions, of course, you can leave a comment on the video. If you're live now, now's the time to ask some questions. And you can always contact me at retrosportsgamertom@gmail.com. The tournament is going to be $30 to enter, and you're going to get some cool stuff with it. I'm giving away 30 NES games. They're all sports games. 30 NES games. There's some good ones included in there. Go to tecmobowl.org. I'll leave a link in the description below to the tournament. I've posted the games in there. Tecmo Super Bowl is one of the games. Tecmo Bowl, Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, Baseball Stars, RBI Baseball. So there's some good ones in there. So what's going to happen at the tournament? Oh, let me talk about that in a second. The $30 also gets you one Nintendo game and custom T-shirts, a hardcore Chicago T-shirt. And we got a couple questions. I'll get to those in just a second. And also, you have the chance to compete for the hardcore championship belt right here. And if you can see, it's engraved Tecmo at the top. Chicago 2018. The cool thing about this belt is it's yours. It's not something that has to be defended. So if you win this belt, you can wear this around for all of the Tecmo tournaments if you want to. I know at Tecmo Madison you had Tecmo Bo wearing the Blono belt, that he won. That belt is an absolute masterpiece. That one's that one that has to be defended. And that's kind of where I got the idea. I've always liked wrestling championship belts, and I saw what they were doing there, and I think it was a great idea. But this one, it's yours. If you win, this belt is yours. Wear it around. And yeah, it's pretty cool. You also, first place is $350 cash. Second place, $150 cash. But everyone that signs up, whether you're a beginner player or experienced player, you're going to get that T-shirt and an NES game. The way it will work, it's going to be there's going to be 6 groups of 5 teams. So each player is going to play 4 round robin games. And with those 4 round robin games, all the players will be combined afterwards. And based on how you finish, your record, we're going to do a lottery, and that will determine your seed. So chances are, if you're 4-0, you're going to end up with one of the top seeds. You're not guaranteed it. We're not doing the point differential thing. One of the reasons I don't want to do point differential is if we do get newer players, I don't need the experienced players running up the score, doing nose tackle dives so they get a better seed and a better Nintendo game. The point differential is eliminated it's thrown out the window, out the door in this format. So what you want to do is just get as many wins possible, and then your seeding will be determined by the lottery. So obviously, if you're 0-4, you're going to have one of the worst seeds combined with the other 0-4 players in the lottery. And if you're 4-0, you're going to end up with one of the top seeds combined with whoever else goes 4-0. And then all the other records fall in between there. So let me take a look at some of the questions here. Thomas Servo says, Mutant League hockey bracket yet? No, I think we can run a tournament in that game at Demon Tap eventually on a Monday night, but I think we need to get a couple carts of that, and it's a pretty expensive game. Rogue Gamer wants free admission because I'm the best. We don't give out free admissions for being the best, but yeah, it's $30 for you still, Rogue Gamer. Sorry to say. He says nice belt. Doug Sadler says nice work. And George Skinner says, when will Texas get some action? Well, in 2017, there was a Tecmo Dallas at one of the gaming conventions. I forget which one it was. So that was a tournament there. The Retro World Series, Hal Hawkins is based out of Texas. I don't know if he's got a tournament scheduled there, but he's running. He announced a Tecmo tour, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of tournaments in the South in it. A lot of them at gaming conventions. I know there's one in New Orleans, Louisiana, that's at a brewery. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out as well. So take a look at that. It's Retro World Series Tecmo Tour. I think you're going to get some. Of course, you always go to tecmobowl.org to stay updated on all of the tournaments, because pretty much anyone who runs a public tournament will throw out their information there. And Rogue Gamer says, I'll pay $30, but I need a Brian autograph. Okay, I think we could make that happen for you. I think you would be the first one to get a Brian autograph that asked for it, at least. And my brother says, oh, thank you guys for all the subscriptions. I don't ask for them too much. I just kind of go on here and do my thing. But he says it's over 500, so he says we need 500 more. But yeah, no, thank you guys for that. I'll keep doing this. I mean, obviously, I'm passionate about retro sports games. I grew up playing them. I still play them now. We have whenever I get spare time, which hasn't been a lot lately. That's one of the things that I like to do: play sports, play retro sports games. So I have a good time doing that. So I'll keep doing this. And if there's no questions, I'm going to end this in just a moment. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to add to this video. But then again, like I said, my brother, Joseph, tell them Okay, my brother says tell them that Lumberjacks Cracks is great. Okay, so he's going to be at Midwest Gaming Classic with Joseph, running that free tournament. So if you're in the convention, you could come play. But other than that, you know, you could contact me, or if you want to sign up for the tournament, PayPal, retrosportsgamertom@gmail.com. Just send it there. Send it friends and family. That way, I don't think there's any fees that way. But if you have any questions, just shoot them to me there as well and in the comments. And that's pretty much going to do it for me tonight. Hope you guys enjoyed my explanation of the tier list. And if you have any disagreements or things that you think are different, of course, leave comments. I love reading that stuff. This is Tecmo Super Bowl. You know, it's a static game unless you're going to hack it. But the tournaments are played on the old school game. That's what everyone remembers. So this is just opening the format, most flexibility on the team matchups and what you could do in the game. So I hope it works out. And I hope there's people that are interested in playing like this. And like I said, the hardcore championship belt is yours if you win. Wear it all around town. You can't do that with a trophy, but with the belt, you can wear it around your waist, assuming that it will fit around your waist, which may be a problem for some Tecmo Super Bowl players. But other than that, the tournaments happen in June 9th, Chicago, Demon Tap. I think this went long enough tonight. So thanks for watching live, and take care.